this is Classon and thank you for watching. I am here with another stupid question of the day. I am recording from my hotel room in Copenhagen. I am at DockerCon Europe. I just had my session, it was the last session of the day, and I had it together with Elton Stoneman. It's the first time I've co-presented and it was a lot of fun. I was also really nervous because I am definitely not a Docker expert. So I wasn't presenting as a Docker expert, I was presenting as a .NET developer and Windows person who does DevOps a good old-fashioned way with virtual machines and a pipeline that accommodates that. And it was fun. It's going to be online in a few days, I believe, so watch it and let me know what you think. Now, I was going to do this recording outdoor in beautiful Norway. I was in Norway last weekend and visited my family. My sister just had her second child and I had to say hello to the little one. Unfortunately, on the first hiking trip, you couldn't see anything. It was just so misty.
You know? Det är det husbyggskapet.
Yes.
Ikke så här.
Ser man någonting ens? Gud, det är helt sjukt. Hej!
Hej!
Vart du rädd nu?
Ja, ser ni.
And the second hiking trip where I thought I was going to have sun, no, it was so windy I could barely even hear myself thinking. And today's question is it secure and is it a good idea to have a physical password manager? By that I mean having a notebook where you write all your passwords. My initial thought was, no, this is a really shitty idea and you definitely shouldn't do it. What? Like, how can you even think that it's a good idea? Was my initial thought. I saw this password manager notebook on Amazon. I have no idea why it was recommended for me, but it showed up among recommended items. And I saw it and I took a screenshot of it and I shared it on Twitter and I said, oh dear, and asked for people's thoughts. I'm very happy I did that because not everybody agrees with my thinking at the time. So, the first person to reply, one of the first persons to reply was Troy Hunt. Troy Hunt is an Australian security expert, a really funny guy and a guy I respect a lot and I've met a couple of times and I always enjoy having conversations with him. Turns out that he has already answered this question. He did a blog post on the exact notebook that I was looking at and sharing his opinion on the matter. And he said one thing which I really liked, and he said the brain is a bad password manager, and that is true. So what he wrote in his blog post is that having a physical password manager is better than not having one at all. People sometimes develop really bad habits, such as writing it down on post-it notes and putting them on their computer screen. I've heard stories from friends of mine working in support where they actually get the computer monitor with the password stickers still on the actual monitor. Some people end up using the same password everywhere or having a few passwords that they rotate, and that's a very common practice that people do, a lot of people do. Whenever you talk about passwords, we talk about some sort of a compromise. And the fear is with having a password manager, be that having a password manager that is such as KeePass and so on, where it's a software that manages your passwords, people have the fear of putting all their eggs in one basket. This expression means that you have all your eggs in a basket, and if you drop that basket or somebody gets a hold of that basket, you're going to lose all your eggs, and that's a really bad bad thing. You get 1 point of failure. And the same thing goes for if you have a physical password manager and you have that notebook. Now, a lot of people say that, well, it's going to be more secure because people would have to break into your house to find it. But looking at the reviews for this notebook, it turns out it seems like a lot of people are carrying it with them. So they might leave it on their desk at work. That would pose a security risk, or they'll have it around with them in their bag and they lose their bag. So there is always some risk involved. And the question is, do we know that if we recommend that people use a physical password manager, how do we know that they're not going to start carrying it around with them, which is going to increase the risk of them losing them? In contrast to using, for example, a password manager software, if the person is able to use such software, because not everybody is that comfortable with that sort of technology yet. Now, they at least have a master password. You don't really have a master password for your physical notebook. I mean, you can put a lock on it, but that's not going to help a lot. I read my sister's diary when I was a kid, and she had a lock on it, and I'm very good at picking locks. Now, Joey was another person who commented on my tweet, and he said that when technology discriminates against certain people that are less able or well informed, they're going to go ahead and find an easier solution. And I think that's really well formulated. I like that. And Amanda Debler, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, she posted a series of tweets as a response to my tweet, and a lot of people liked and retweeted her tweets, and she went on she wrote a little bit longer about exactly that how about the people who are less able, and she didn't think that it necessarily was such a bad idea when you take into account what other possibilities are. So nobody out there would say that this is the best option, but you gotta take into account the person using it and also what the person otherwise would be able to do. But I do have some questions though, some things that I have been thinking about. One guy wrote, Cameron, I think his name was, he jokingly just tweeted back that most people only need one row. What he was referring to there is that most people tend to reuse the same password or passwords. And I looked up at some studies, and people do this even in enterprise environments. It's very common that people do that. But I couldn't find any study where they looked at whether a person would be less likely to reuse a password if they had it written down or in a password manager. And that's what I'm curious about, because if you still yourself have to choose the password, when you're choosing the password, I don't know if the person's going to think, I'm going to try to choose something super unique and then I'm going to write it down, or I'm going to add it into my password software manager. Will people actually do that, or will they still reuse it? Because in particular with a physical password manager, you still have to find it in your notebook, and you still have to type it into your computer and all that. And I'm sort of thinking that people are still going to be inclined towards choosing something simple and something that they can remember, and they're just going to use that notebook as sort of a refresher. So it really depends on how people end up using that notebook. That's why I can't make a recommendation, because I have no idea. I know that from asking some of the people closest to me, and I've asked only 3 people, so it's not enough to draw any conclusions, is that they still reuse their passwords. And 2 of them will bring this notebook around with them and even lend it out to somebody if they need to access one of their accounts. This is in a work situation, which is not a good idea. So what I'm thinking about also is that if we give people the advice of using a physical notebook to write the password, the advice we give on password management becomes a little bit complicated, because we'll say things, instead of just saying, no, don't write it down, we go like, well, you can write it down, but write it in a notebook that just looks like a normal notebook and people won't be tempted to look in it, and also make sure you have it in a secure place, and also make sure, when you start giving loads and loads of instructions, and that's going to confuse people. And I wonder if they're not just going to end up writing it on a piece of paper and just have it next to their computer. I don't know. What I do know from looking at a few studies I could find on the topic is that people want to be secure. They just don't know how to, and often when they set the password they actually think it's secure. In one study, I think it was 1/3 of people would write it down and even share it with other colleagues, the password. Again, these studies are small studies. I don't know if it's enough to draw a conclusion, and I still don't feel like I have an answer to my question. I do feel like I have a more 360 view, or at least I have more opinions that have been shared with me, and I'm not gonna go, ooh, gasp, wow, you're writing it down. I'm gonna think about the person and the situation before I come with a response. I still struggle recommending people to write down their password. Yeah. But I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think people are going to use more complex and unique passwords if they write it down in a notebook? Will they keep the notebook in a safe place? What do you think the behavior will be? And do you think that, what are we teaching out? Are we teaching out something bad, or is this like a first step towards using software to manage it? Or do you think that even that's a bad idea? And of course, multi-factor authentication, it's always better. And I've talked about that before. I have a blog post on multi-factor authentication explaining what it is. But now I'm only discussing one-factor authentication, and that factor being password, just a password you need to memorize or keep somewhere, hopefully somewhere safe. Now, this probably was a very long video. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit chatty and excited and full of energy after a wonderful day at DockerCon Europe. It's been so much fun. Make sure you watch the sessions, and look forward to continuing this discussion with you in the comments and on Twitter and everywhere. Have a freaking fantastic day. I'm not gonna have more coffee today because I'm probably gonna struggle sleeping. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Bye.